So good morning, everyone. I'm so excited to have you all here joining us for our Workforce Readiness Salesforce Service Cloud Bootcamp presentation. So my name is Sarah Clark. I'm the digital marketing strategist here at Ablr, and I'll be doing the behind the scenes for today's webinar, just moderating, the works. So for today, a couple of housekeeping notes before we jump in. This webinar is being recorded. So early next week, we'll be able to send the recording to you all, and along with any FAQs or resources that would be helpful for you all. We will also make sure that all of that, the recording and the resources are going to be fully accessible so that you could share them internally as well as with your clients. So that's, we're recording right now. And we also have a Q&A feature. So if you have any questions for our lovely panelists, or if anything comes up during the webinar that you're curious about, just pop them into the Q&A feature. But we also have the chat. So all participants are muted upon entry. So if you've got any technical concerns or anything like that, just go ahead and utilize the chat feature. All right. And I think that covers everything. Just let me know, I'll be moderating the chat. But yeah, so let me get started. I'm going to pass this over to John Samuel, and he is going to kick us off.
Thank you so much, Sarah, and welcome everyone. Thank you all for taking the time to be here with us today. I know for many of you it may have been short notice, but we're so thankful that you're here to hear what we have to say today. My name is John Samuel, and I am the CEO of Ablr. We're super excited to talk to you about an innovative workforce readiness program today. And it's something that I'm really passionate about. And remember today, it's something that, this recording is going to be, it's going to be recorded, the webinar is going to be recorded. So you're going to be able to watch this later on. Even if you're late to the show today, or someone who isn't here, don't worry, they're going to be able to watch this later on. But first, next slide. But first, let's talk about the agenda for today. We'll first do some introductions. Who is Ablr and who's on our team? And then we'll talk about the actual Salesforce Service Cloud training. And then we'll follow up that with the Q&A, just like Sarah mentioned. So remember to put in your questions in the Q&A chat function, and we'll hopefully get to those today. But if we don't, we'll also send out an FAQ and also respond to all the questions later on. Next slide. So Ablr is a disability and inclusion company, and our whole mission is focused on how do we remove the barriers for people with disabilities. And we do that in 3 different ways: eliminating the digital divide, creating pathways for employment, and changing the pathways and changing the mindsets of people and organizations. And I'll talk about each one of them. When we talk about eliminating the digital divide, we're really talking about our digital accessibility services, making sure that people can actually access the information. Just like Sarah mentioned earlier, we're making sure that this presentation will be accessible for your clients if they need to see it, or any of you who may have a visual impairment. We want to make sure that it's always accessible, and that's what we do through our eliminating the digital divide. Changing the mindsets of people and organizations, we're doing that in multiple ways. One, we're doing it through our disability inclusion training modules that we've developed. We're also doing it through our advisory and consulting services. And then finally, creating the pathways for employment. And this is what we're doing through our workforce readiness program and our workforce development program. Next slide. Our advantage, the Ablr Advantage, and our approach to this is really simple. It's nothing about us without us. And so what we're really doing is taking a human-centric approach to addressing these problems. Because we know this firsthand, because 70% of our team has identified with a disability. That includes me as well. This really allows us to really take this on as this human-centric approach to solving these critical problems and barriers that have been hindering many people from entering the workforce. And so when we look at it, we really are looking at the intersection of business, people, and technology. And that's really where our focus comes. And that's where we get that human-centric approach. Next slide. But before we go in, I'd really just kind of like to share a little bit about myself and my story and kind of how we got to where we are today. So as I mentioned, my name is John, and I am actually born and raised here in Cary, North Carolina. But I was diagnosed with RP, or retinitis pigmentosa, when I was in college. And when I found out, it was devastating for me. I didn't think, first things that go through my mind were like, what kind of job can I have? Where can I live? And what girl's going to be the guy who can't see? These are kind of the things that went through my head all the time. And I ended up failing out of college. But I came back home. I was out of state for school, and I came back home to North Carolina, moved in with my buddies at NC State, and I finished up at NC State and got my degree. But I knew I had to get out of here because I didn't think anyone who couldn't drive could live here because transportation was so challenging. So I decided to go out to India for 2 years. I worked there for a couple of years because I knew I could get a car and driver for $100 a month, and that was something that was doable for me. I then ended up moving out to New York City, and that's when I realized that my career trajectory just wasn't the same as my friends that I had grown up with. Many of them had gone into medicine, they were going into law, they were going into investment banking, and I just didn't see that kind of growth for myself. I then was able to reconnect with somebody named Steve Clemens, and I had an opportunity to go out to Africa and start up a telecom infrastructure company in Cameroon. And so I had media success there, grew a company across the continent, and then came back home to the US to do my MBA in DC. And it was really here that first time I started talking about my vision impairment openly. Up until this point, I had kept it a secret because I was ashamed and embarrassed. And then when I was in grad school, the dean of the business school, she actually had a child with a special need, and she could empathize with what I was going through, and she encouraged me to be open about my vision loss. And so that's when I started talking about it with my classmates. And I often say that was the first time I could open up my heart. And I met my wife in the program. And then, so I knew by being open the benefits that could happen of that. Afterwards, I struggled to find a job because I thought companies would see it as a liability. But I ended up landing on my feet with a private equity firm. But in 2017, I found myself without a job. And my wife and I had just built a house. We just had a baby. And the stress of all this caused my eyesight to go really fast, and I can no longer see the computer screen. I was living up in DC at the time, and I read this article about this software that was developed over at SAS, and it was designed to help people who are blind and low vision visualize, grasp, and chart using sounds. I thought it was pretty cool, but what was really cool was the guy who designed it. His name is Ed Summers. Many of you may have heard of him, uh, but I had never met anyone who was blind before at this point. And I was like, I got to meet this guy. And he lived in my hometown of Cary, North Carolina. And for 2 months, I tried to get in touch with Ed with no luck. Finally, my wife said, if Ed could live in North Carolina, maybe we could too. So we found a house online and we told my folks, and they got so excited. My parents never thought I was ever coming home. And my dad immediately jumped in the car to go look at this house. And as he's driving, he's talking to my wife and I on the phone, and he started yelling at something. And I'm like, Dad, what are you doing? He's like, oh, there's a blind guy on the road. Maybe it's the guy you're trying to get in touch with. Like, oh, Dad, please don't yell at blind people on the road. Don't yell at anyone. And he's like, all right, gets out of the car, walks over to this poor guy and says, are you Ed Summers? And the guy says, yes, I am. And that's when my dad puts the phone in Ed's ear and says, hey, my son's trying to reach you. I apologized to Ed. He agreed to meet me. And that's when I came down to meet him. And a 30-minute conversation turned into 3 hours. And Ed introduced me to the world of accessibility. Fast forward, he introduced me to the president of LCI, which is the largest employer of people who are blind and based in Durham, North Carolina, just 7 miles from where I grew up. And when I was meeting with the president, Jeffrey Hawting, he was talking about creating technology-based jobs. And so I decided to join the company and start this new business. And that's where we really wanted to create new employment opportunities for people who are blind in the knowledge economy. And when we started looking at a lot of the software, we realized that just things were just not accessible. And if we wanted to set up people for success, then we were going to have to focus on accessibility and removing that barrier. And so fast forward, as we have been working on accessibility, we realized that the other barriers that were hindering people. And again, a big one was creating pathways for employment. And so that's why we launched our new workforce readiness program. And the whole focus is really about how are we going to get people into the job market. But now I'd like to introduce my colleague Morgan to talk a little bit more about herself and how this is going to help your clients and the community in whole.
Hi, everybody. So good to be with you today. And before I introduce myself, I'd love to actually do a quick poll with you, which John just mentioned about the barriers that often prevent people from going or actually staying in roles. And so we want to actually ask your opinion and your experience with working with your participants and your clients, what you've experienced as some of those major barriers. So you should be able to see a question pop up on your screen, and it's going to say, what are the challenges people face in staying in roles from your opinion or experience? And is it the wages or benefits, the transportation, upward mobility or job promotion opportunities, the general company culture, lack of mentorship or support, lack of disability inclusion awareness, or something else? So we'll give you just a second to do that because we'd really love to get your feedback on this. All right. And Sarah, when a lot of people have answered, we can go ahead and share out the results so that we can all kind of learn together with that.
I'm super excited.
I know. And if you have any questions or if anything's not working, please just chat with us and we'll work it out. Sarah, what do you think? I can go ahead and introduce myself and share that out after, or?
Sure, yeah, let's see. We got 70% of participants voted, which is, I think that's pretty good.
Okay.
So I'm gonna go ahead and the poll. Let me share the results.
All right, wow. So 57% transportation, and it looks like 24% lack of disability inclusion awareness. All right, that's really important to know. We know that all of these pieces play into some way, shape, or form, but that's fantastic. Thank you all for sharing that.
Awesome. All right, let me stop sharing.
Yeah, thank you.
Of
So I'm going to introduce myself, and then we're going to dive into the program and hit on some of those barriers and how we want to work alongside y'all to help support participants and clients in those ways. So my name is Morgan Cates, and I'm the director of Ablr Works, which is the company that John founded. And just a brief background for me and how I met John and got, attached to everything is that I was a special education teacher, administrator, and also an educational consultant in Durham, North Carolina for 7 years as a teacher, but additional years after that working with educational programs and the school systems to really set up programs that were best abled and student-centric. I'm very thankful for that time because during that time, I was able to interact with a lot of companies, especially nonprofits or for-benefit companies that were able to provide a lot of resources and just support in ways that oftentimes school systems couldn't do, or at least not do as quickly. And so I ended up going back to school locally and focused on nonprofit business management. And through that was able to become a consultant and a project coordinator and able to work with really wonderful organizations, small, medium, and large. And, some of them that you might have heard of as, Duke Clinical Research Institute, Duke University, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the Emily K Center, Code the Dream, and really focused around diversity, equity, inclusion, and STEM programs, especially with students and for students with and without disabilities. And so how I got connected with John and Ablr is that I was a part of a team that was helping build a full stack software engineering bootcamp that served students both in person and remotely and with and without disabilities. And so John and I connected and really saw a way to dovetail both of our skills and experience to be able to provide and support these pathways to employment, just like John said, in the tech field with those knowledge-based economy roles that would hopefully provide career opportunities with upward mobility, right? And to really expand and change those mindsets for the people in the organizations. And so we'll go ahead to the next slide. And as long as y'all are up for it, I have one more poll for you because I want to pick your brains, which is what industry do you think your clients are most interested in finding roles in? So we'll pop up another poll. And again, the question is, what industry do you think your clients most want to find roles in? And the options are tech, healthcare, manufacturing, customer service, finance, nonprofits, startups, other. There's so many, industries and companies out there, but this is just to kind of get, a touch on what you have heard and experienced and seen. And I'll give you a second. So again, we're just trying to think about creating those pathways to employment with these workforce readiness programs that we do with Ablr. And so this information will help us learn a little bit alongside you. We'll give you one more minute So John, while we're waiting, what do you think the number one answer will be?
I
Any
know.
idea?
I'm thinking about it. I'm thinking I don't want to skew. I don't want to
Oh,
skew
okay.
that, but I'm super excited about this.
Okay.
Okay, 72% of votes are in, so I'll go
Perfect.
ahead and, oh,
Thank you.
75. Okay,
All right.
last chance. Okay, I'm gonna end the poll.
Okay.
Share results. All right, look at that.
Wow, 57% customer
Wow.
service. Wow, that was the same number
Wow.
as last time. Okay. And then 22% for tech, 9% for manufacturing, 9% for other, nothing for startups.
Wow.
And that's great. Okay. Thank you
So
all for
cool.
that.
Yeah.
Excellent. All right. Well, that's right on point for what's next. So Sarah, we'll go to that next slide. And so I really want to talk to you about our Salesforce Service Cloud Bootcamp. And what I want to start off first is with our why. Why are we doing this? Why is our workforce readiness first pilot bootcamp focused on what we're doing? And so I just want to start off with our goals. And our goals right now are to train 5 students or participants in Salesforce Service Cloud for customer service roles that will allow for upward mobility. So they'll be able to come in at an entry level and then be able to have promotions and upskill continually within the Salesforce world. And we'll talk a little bit more about Salesforce in just a second. And then our overarching goals is that we want to build a training framework that can be repeated several times a year with interchangeable targeted skills. So we're starting with Salesforce, and we'll learn a little bit more, but Salesforce has 7 main platforms that you can use and grow in, and that these can be interchanged within our model, but we can also add in other tech skills that would be needed. The sky's the limit, and that we would be able to repeat this program and really help people to get the roles and skills that they want in the industries and companies that they want. The other thing that we want to do is provide a holistic career support for participants, as well as companies that hire graduates from the program. So once they're trained, and we'll learn more about this, we're not going to just like release them into the wild. They will have support and mentorship and community through our program as well. And we want to just continue that support and also gain that feedback and that data of where are the gaps. And then also for companies who, regardless of if they're in the disability inclusion sphere and knowledge base, that they're still getting the support as they think through things, especially those larger organizations that sometimes that change can go very small and incrementally. So we want to make sure that we're there to not only help the clients one-on-one, but to help the companies who are hiring the clients, and the clients being our participants in this program. The other thing that we want to do, as I mentioned before, is just leverage data, feedback, and the alumni from our program and our own disability inclusion community to help change mindsets and create more pathways for employment. We just want to keep growing this and having this just build out and expand like a ripple of water. So that's our why. And we're going to go into talking a little bit about Salesforce, and then we'll do an overview of the program. So Sarah, if we can hit that next. Oh, perfect. Thank you. So what is Salesforce? Many of you probably know more about Salesforce than even I do, and I'm continually learning, but just to kind of do a level set, Salesforce is the #1 CRM, which is customer relationship management system in the world. And it's a cloud-based software as a service platform. Again, that's that SaaS. It is just in every industry, any company. It can be for any industry, company of any size. And it's mainly used in sales, marketing, commerce, and service, but it's not limited to that, just that. So that's a little bit about what Salesforce is. And I want to talk now about why we chose Salesforce. So besides it being the #1 CRM system in the world, it's used in 99 of the Fortune 100 companies. And I know I'm reading this slide verbatim, my apologies, but over 150,000 companies worldwide. We really think numbers tell a story. So I wanted to make sure we hit on that there's a lot of opportunity there. It has 7 offerings, which it has even over 7 offerings, but it mainly hits on human resources, accounting, being able to use data to predict all sorts of things for the business, process automation, so those SOPs, social media monitoring and management, help desk and support centers, especially with those customer support roles that we were just talking about. We know that there are companies in this area that not only use Salesforce, but are looking for these skills and are hiring actively for Salesforce roles, especially Salesforce Service Cloud. And so just thinking about, hey, we're going to talk about this program, but like what roles could our students even get after doing this program? I have it listed down here where it's a Salesforce Service Cloud consultant, Salesforce Service Cloud customer support, customer care, call center support, client services. And as they build, onto their skills, they can become Salesforce administrators, business analysis, developers, and so on and so forth. There's really no limit to this. And that's what's really exciting for us. So now that we've kind of, I hope, like laid maybe like the base, I want to talk about our program now. So we're going to go into the overview of what our Salesforce Service Cloud Bootcamp actually is. And so right now is an 8-week remote program that has a year of career support. So after the 8-week program, I like how I said certificate of completion at the end. I'm not sure why my spell check did not catch that. So as we mentioned, our team has 70% those that identify with disabilities. I myself have dyslexia, so we've just caught a whiff of sometimes how that can come into play. But that said, our 8-week program, when they complete it successfully, they will have a certificate of completion, and then that will follow with 1 year of career support, and we'll talk more about that in just a second. The start of the program is going to be October 4th of this year, and it will end November 22nd. It's a full-time program, so right now, participants would not be able to do both a full-time job and do this program. It's going to be 9 to 4 p.m. and some days will be a little bit flex, but right now that's going to be the expectation, is that they will be working in some format from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. And as a quick check on that, just so you know, we're going to be using project-based learning. That's the best research evidence for gaining new skills like this, and also just for any and all learning styles. And so this will include lecture, large and small group sessions, independent work, project-based kind of KPIs. So how are we assessing them? They will not only learn it, but then they will actually produce the skill that they're looking for in these roles. They're going to have available office hours with both TA and teachers. And we're going to also have a lot of activities as well. And so there's going to be a good mixture. It's not just going to be straight computer time for the full, the full day. It's going to be really dynamic and engaging as much as it can. The goal, as you know, is that we will do this repeatedly throughout the years. And so we will eventually have this be in person when it makes sense and is, a bit safer with COVID. But for right now, we're doing remote so that this can be also available to people statewide. We are going to have 5 participants starting off. Eventually, we will raise that. But for now, we want to start with 5 with our pilot program so we can give a lot of attention, a lot of support, especially knowing that it's going to be remote. There will be 2 teachers, 1 TA, and 1 program coordinator. So there's going to be full-bodied support all around these students. Right now, the program is going to include an orientation for 1 week, Salesforce Service Cloud training for 3 weeks, job immersion training for 4 weeks, and career support for a full year. We're going to dive into what that looks like, sounds like in just a second. And the last piece I want to do for the overview is that we are doing keyboard training, and we're going to be using the actual Salesforce platform and software. We're going to be using Zoom, Fusion License, and Microsoft Teams. That's going to be what the environment is going to be for the students. All right, so kind of diving in more to our actual program. For the orientation, this is where students are going to get to meet the staff and the fellow participants. We're going to make sure that all of the software and tech is set up, ready to go. There's tons of practice with that and being able to kind of troubleshoot anything that might happen. Going ahead and making sure that everyone fully understands and agrees to the daily, weekly routine and expectations, answering any questions that pop up, and just building that general camaraderie, because we really do want a culture of it's okay to ask questions. This is going to be a hard and fast-paced program. And we want to make sure that everyone is set up for success for that day one. And so leading into day one, it's going to be the Salesforce Service Cloud training. And this is going to include much more than what you see here, but the roles that are hiring are looking for these exact skills. So this is what's being included, which is that case management, customer access, integration, especially with those legacy data systems, which a lot of companies have, being able to have the pre-built integration, support ticketing, the knowledge base within certain programs within the Salesforce Service Cloud, routing and escalation, queue management, so on and so forth. But those are the main skills that these roles are really looking for. And so that's what we're going to be training on and for. For the job immersion training, this is going to include a lot of things as well, but the main things that we're going to hit on is the resume writing, LinkedIn creation, helping with the job search and organization of how that's just a whole kit and caboodle right there. But besides that, interview practice, being able to provide networking opportunities, but also talking and having some time to practice networking skills. Everyone's at different levels with that, but making sure that we hit that. Talking through like sharing and asking for accommodations. What happens if I'm sensing a microaggression? And then really focusing on that solution-oriented thinking, professional communication, it struck again, it says professional communication, but professional communication, being collaborative on a team, especially within like the customer service role. So thinking through that team planning within this specific role and much more that's really gonna appeal to those roles that they'll be applying for. For the career support, which is after the program, which again is for a full year, it's going to look like weekly sessions for up to 1 hour with a career coach. And that's going to be a time when either they're job searching or even after they're hired, that they have that protected time that they can talk through anything that they need to talk to, practice through, etc. There's also going to be a monthly alumni and group event. So this might be, hey, we're going to go to this networking event, which a lot of networking events right now are online. Or, hey, we're going to all meet together as, a cohort and just kind of check in with each other, share thoughts, answer questions. And that's going to be also organized by the career coach. And then also the job support for participant and company once hired. So once the participant is hired, we're still going to be around. We want to make sure that they're liking what they're doing, that if they have any questions, that they have someone they can go to and be encouraging, but also for us to collect the data, right? Is transportation still an issue? How is it going with your team? How is it with the culture? How is it with the software? Did the training fully prepare you for this role? So really collecting that data. And then on the other side, making sure that the manager or the company contact is able to reach out to us as well, and that we're making at least bi-monthly communication with the company so that they are able to best support this employee, but also have a lot of the disability inclusion awareness, like we said, ripple out throughout the whole team and department. Because as we know, and as research shows, disability inclusion doesn't just help people with disabilities, it helps everybody. So that's the program overview, and we'll go to the next slide. So process and requirements. So we would love people to apply, and that's where you come in. We really want to note here that anyone interested should apply. We're going to go through, what our ideal situation would be, what the ideal candidate would be, but we really do want to state that we want anyone interested to apply. After applying, participants will take an assessment, and with this assessment, there will come a report, and we will share out that report with them. That we'll talk through some of these skills that we'll talk about in just a second, and really help them know where they are, and if they want to do a role like this, or if they want to participate in a program like this, what they can do to prepare themselves. Because again, this is going to be ongoing. They can absolutely have, another round or another chance to join us, or potentially another program, and this report will help them to know what steps they would need to take to get there. And so again, really encourage anyone interested to apply. But thinking ahead for the success of the program, because this is going to be fast-paced, this is a pilot program, and with that October 4th start date, what we think would make for a successful candidate, based on our training partners, case studies, and other programs similar to this, is that the minimum education would be high school diploma or equivalent. The ideal education would be a bachelor's degree. Minimum work experience would be 12 consecutive months of employment with at least one company in any industry. And again, thinking more ideally, it would be 1 to 3 years of work experience, in a related customer service role. When we want to think about like those tech skills or what would be helpful for success with our program, it'd be able to operate Microsoft Office, including Outlook for Windows, thinking through like that word processing, ability to format, compose, and edit documents, ability to organize and retain documents and find them quickly and effectively. We definitely want ability and interest in using keyboard strokes and shortcuts. Again, just that idea of able to use your AT to access computer applications, internet, email, Zoom, all of that with accuracy. Email is going to be a huge piece. And so just ability to receive and send email, ability to open and attach and send and receive documents within emails. And then also, and probably more crucially than any of this, is an actual interest in working with the Salesforce platform, and just interest in customer service, a customer service role. Again, we really encourage anyone to apply and are just really excited to answer some of your questions. So I'll hand it back to Sarah. I know that was a lot of information. As a kind reminder, we'll send out this recording as well as a frequently asked question document that will be accessible, obviously to be printed, but also if you do send it out to any clients. But I'll pass it off to Sarah so we can take some of your questions. Thank you all.
Yeah, let me start pulling up the Q&A. Okay. Oops, sorry. Sorry, y'all, multitasking with
No
Zoom.
worries. Well, we'll
Here
just do
we
a quick reminder that if you have any questions, you're welcome to use the Q&A feature, put them in the
Yes.
chat. Yeah, and Sarah will help make sure that those are asked.
Absolutely. Okay. So we've got some good questions coming in, and also wanted to talk about, get some good ones. Okay. So we've got a question. So is there a charge for training?
That's a great question. So no, there is no charge to the participants. It will be free for them to participate. But again, we would want very highly to just underline and bold that if they are accepted into the program, we don't want someone that's just dipping their toe in the water. We would want someone who's extremely committed, that this is what they want, because again, we're limiting it to 5 participants. With the help with DSB and ourselves, we were putting this on. And so it would be something we want to be very mindful of, that they would be committed to, even if there's no charge. And again, it would be something that they would have to commit to and not currently be working a full-time role at, because of the need to attend class for the full day. I hope that answers.
Awesome. We have another question. So does the assessment include a section where the applicant can check their AT skills with the Salesforce program? I have some consumers who are pretty savvy with navigating the internet and email, but have difficulty with specific applications.
A, that's just really cool. And B, we can absolutely add that in there at this time. Ooh, I think I saw Cynthia answer. But we can definitely add that in there. That's a great piece of information to have.
Awesome.
And Cynthia, just so y'all can see, Cynthia responded back to that first question of, is it, at cost to the participants? It's not. And Cynthia said, the VR program will be paying for the training. So if that could be more specific.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Thanks, Cynthia.
All right, another question. So who will provide the technical computer software equipment?
Yes, other great question. So it's going to be on an individualized basis. We're going to, assess what the students currently have. We do have requirements, and we can also send that information out if helpful. But, DSB will also be helping provide that as needed for successful, participation in the program.
Let's see. Is there a job placement piece where you will assist with them finding employment?
Great question. John, I can keep going, but you're welcome to.
You go. Yeah, I'll jump in. You keep going.
Okay, great. So such a great question. And at this time, there is not a job placement, but there are relationships being built with companies that are interested in interviewing our participants of the boot camp. And so there are guaranteed interviews, but not placements. And so it would have to be for the fit. In the future, we would really like and are actively working towards that being an option, whether that's an internship, apprenticeship, or an actual role. But at this time, there would be introductions and networking available and interviews available, but not current job placement for hire for this potential, or at this time for this pilot.
Awesome.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what does the application process look like? How are applicants chosen?
That's a great question. Thank you all. These are all wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
So the application process is going to be, really in large part, y'all. People will reach out with interest, or if you want to share this, if you have someone in mind that you think would be, a great participant or applicant. And so they'll go through the process with you all, and then we will have an outside partner do assessment, and that's going to be that tech assessment. And how applicants are chosen are going to be based upon that tech assessment of, with the minimum requirements needed to be successful in the program, do they meet that? And if so, then they can go through the program. I hope that makes sense. And so basically based upon that report with our partners who are also helping with the curriculum, who will be part of the TA, like they are full-bodied in this, just as committed, just as aware of everything. So they're looking for you know, the mindset, the attitude, the tech requirements to be successful in this program. So based upon that assessment with our partner, we can then extend, you know, an offer to participate.
Awesome. So we got another question. How current would the work history need to be?
That's a really great question. I want to be completely honest. I had not fully thought of that. So I'm going to hand this off to John because I wonder if John, yeah.
Yeah, you know, I think that having some work experience, understanding the, understanding the requirements of being in a job, you know, because one of the goals is not, we don't want to give somebody just a job. We want them to be there and have a successful track record. And so, you know, I think that, you know, people whom, like myself, you know, as I lost my sight, I had a career before losing my sight, and then I had a career after, you know, losing my sight. But I think that it's people who are, you know, have experience and are willing to go back into the workforce and prepared to be able to do the technical assessment. So I would say that, you know, at least in my opinion, I don't see somebody who limiting anybody who may have had a longer gap. That's totally fine. But I think it's really going to come down to that technical assessment and then the desire and hunger to want to be in the workforce.
Thank you, John, for that. And thank you all. These are excellent questions.
Those are wonderful questions. Yep.
Yes. And so we have some others here. Sorry, Sarah, I just saw them in the QA.
No,
Does
go
the
for it,
Salesforce, thank you. Does the Salesforce Service Cloud certification need to be renewed annually? If so, what does that process look like? At this time, no, especially if they're in an active role, but I will triple check that. But currently at this time, no. And then the other one is the participant paid while being trained. I should have answered that immediately within our slides. So I will make sure to add that to the slides. I'll add a lot of these back to the slides so that y'all can have this either to review or to share out. And currently, no, they will not be paid while doing the training.
Get another question. With career support for, let's see. Sorry, I just lost them. With career support for a year, would anything disqualify that for participants, and who provides the support?
Okay. So great question. I'm just thinking through my answer. And so if someone would be disqualified through career support, it might be if they didn't make it fully through the program. So they didn't actually graduate the program. So they wouldn't then qualify for career support. But also if they are not doing the 3 pieces of career support, which is, you know, doing their part in actively applying or following up on the leads or introductions or networks or interviews that we're providing for them, you know, actively doing so, not like, oh, I need to take some time for this, but just like an active disinterest or lack of engagement, just because of that disinterest, that would disqualify. But also if they repeatedly miss meetings on, again, like on purpose, like if there are outside factors, that would be something, but if they're not putting their work into it, we are currently creating those standards right now. Like if you miss more than 5 appointments, right, for what maybe would be considered like not excused, right? Just you forgot, you didn't want to be there, you're no longer interested in this role, those types of things that would lead to disqualifying. And then who provides it? It will, right now, the program coordinator, who will be like the liaison between everybody in the program, who is going to get to know all of the participants and really help onboarding, connecting all those dots, also will become the career support. And so they're going to have that relationship. They're also going to be the ones, besides John and myself, communicating with those companies. And so they're going to have those relationships built and they're going to transition into that career support. So that's going to be who's providing that, which is going to be a hire that we make.
Awesome. Got another question in. What type of salaries can someone in this role expect upon completing boot camp and obtaining employment in this field?
That is such a great question. We are currently researching that because it can be a wide range, and especially depending on the company and the previous experience. Yeah. And then also their education background. So it can be quite a range. John, you can, sorry, did you have any?
No, when we looked at some of the, you know, in the Salesforce ecosystem. At this level, coming in as a tier 1 help desk, we're looking at salaries ranging from anywhere from $12.50 up to 20s. But there's no guarantee for which company. It'll be different for each company, and as Morgan mentioned, also based on their experience.
But yes, I would say the high range would be that, and John, you were talking per hour.
That's correct, per hour.
Yeah, making sure we're clear.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that high range would be the 25 per hour, which is what we would encourage students to ask for. But again, this is the company, the background, the experience, all of that. But
all right, next question. How flexible is the training? Are there opportunities to make up class time if there are doctor appointments, emergencies, etc.?
So that's where, with just the commitment and interest, right, in the program is going to come into play. So there is some flexibility, absolutely. But because of the Salesforce Service Cloud training being technical, we want to be very careful that students wouldn't miss a lot. But with the help of the TA and the teachers, we do have absolutely some flexibility, but it could not be back to back, especially during that first 3-week period. So the 3-week period is going to be the time where it's the least able to be flexible, because again, it's a Salesforce Service Cloud. We have people who train all day, every day, right? People for Salesforce. And then we have partners who not only work in Salesforce, but have low vision or blindness themselves, or help train people with Salesforce with blindness and low vision. And so that time that we have with them is during those 3 weeks. And so there is flexibility. There is less flexibility during that 3-week period. And so it wouldn't be able to be more than a day or even really half day. But we do have supports available that if that does happen, that's possible. But for the remaining portion during that job immersion piece, there is that time and flexibility.
So here's another question. What will the program day look like, and will there be homework each day?
Great question. So currently there is not planned to be any homework because that is a long day, but there are things that need to be completed each and every day. So when we think about like assessments and how do we actually get to see, completion and understanding and being able to assess the progress, there will be basically like project-based assessments that will be used like with rubrics. And so students will know each day, not only what they will be learning, but what is expected of them by the end of that day. And so though there will be no homework, there will be those pieces. And so if for whatever reason someone did have to miss a portion of class, or maybe it took them a little bit longer, or they had an extra long office hour session because it was helpful, they could still work on it after hours if needed. But currently we are not assigning any homework. And then a typical day is going to look pretty different. Each week will be different, but again, it's going to have in general a time where we all come together in the morning, and there will be like a review of yesterday, answering any questions that might be remaining, making sure that everyone is more or less on the same page. And if not, making sure that we schedule those office hours and that extra support either with the teachers or TA, which again are highly technical, trained in this, to make sure that that doesn't linger. And then moving forward for that actual like lesson or project for the day in a group session or small group session, and then being able to have their one-on-one time to do that, and then coming back together. And so doing a mix of that. And then, like I said, it could be different just depending on what skills being learned, where they're at with it, so on and so forth. And also just wanting to make sure that we're checking in with the students and seeing, hey, do we need more group time? Do we need more lecture? Do they enjoy the small groups? So there's going to be that ability to tailor it specifically for our students' needs. But I hope that that's able to answer. And then at the end of the day, we will always come back together as a group and do a check-in. And then there will be office hours available, like I said, for the students. Some will be mandatory, so there'll be a check-in at least twice a week with both the TA and teacher, so that everyone's getting seen and having that like time allotted for them. But there will be basically like volunteered office hours where they can sign up for them if they want additional time. And those will be offered every day.
All right, another question came in. DSB also supports paid internships that extend up to 1,000 hours or 6 months. Can this internship program apply to Ablr?
I would want to learn more, but I would be excited to learn more. John, any thoughts?
Yeah, I think I'd like to learn more about that as well.
We have a contact slide coming up. You're welcome to reach out to us, or we can reach out to you as well if you're able to connect with us.
Yeah.
Awesome. Another question, is this program only open to the local RDU area?
It is open to the local RDU area and then also statewide, which is a benefit for this remote piece.
Yeah, and that's why we're super excited about that, to be able to provide, I think there's a lot of attention to just here in the Triangle, but we're super excited that we're going to be able to reach all the economic zones in North Carolina on this.
Fabulous. How many boot camps do you plan to have in the future or each year?
That's a fun question. John, you had a smile, so let's
No,
pass
I mean,
that to you.
because the way we designed this boot camp is in a way that it can be scalable and replicable, meaning that we can do this on a base. This is after the first one. We're hoping that we can do this again a couple times next year. But also the way we designed it is that the Salesforce training can also be switched out with another type of technical training. And so that's what we're super excited about, is just the fact that it is a scalable, and it can be adaptable to the growing and driving needs of the business.
Awesome. Let's see. Why was Salesforce Service Cloud chosen?
Kind of want to do another poll and ask y'all why you think, but I will say, just because it is the #1, CRM in the world, it has so many implications in so many industries. It's used so widely here. So Blue Cross Blue Shield, AT&T, Cisco, Epic Games, HCL, it is prolific here. And we know that companies are actively looking for this skill and will be hiring for these roles.
Yeah.
That's why we chose it for this time, especially when our program ends. It will allow our students the ability to interview with companies that we know are going to be hiring for these roles. So that was a very strategic plan on our end.
Yeah, and I don't think add on this is that, even as applicants and candidates are building up their resume, even if they join another organization, having that Salesforce experience or going through this boot camp, it adds credibility. Given, as Morgan mentioned, the #1 CRM system in the world. Again, I think there's 150,000 clients across the globe. It's prolific. The other piece is that the accessibility. There's going to be some customization and things that we're going to have to do to help make sure that it's fully accessible. But the commitment that Salesforce has had on accessibility is amazing, and I think that's another driving force to wanting to use this platform.
Absolutely, John. I'm so glad you hit on that. The accessibility piece is huge. I think because that's often the water that, Sarah, John, and myself swim in every day, and y'all as well. Just thinking about that accessibility piece, that's another huge factor. So just looking at the time and wanting to be very mindful of your time and knowing that we want to wrap this up, but we also have one more poll for you. I promise it's the last one, but we would love to learn alongside y'all of what next skill you think would be good for a boot camp. I know we're still talking about this and doing the pilot, but we are constantly wanting to collect that data. And so what other skills do you think your clients would want to learn? Do you think they want more technical and computer skills? Do you think they want financial or budgeting? And this can be, that one is kind of like both professional and personal, but for all of these, but we really do want to know. And then human resources, do you think people would want to learn, how to be in a human resource role or other business minded, type of skills? And of course, there's always the other. So we'll give just a minute for that. I'm super curious to hear what y'all learn. And we'll have our contact listed here at the end. And we will always want to hear, any thoughts or feedback that you might have, because we really do want to grow this and continue this. And we get to, learn from y'all, because you really do have so much engagement with, the community and the people that we want to walk alongside and support.
60% voted. I'll just give it a couple more.
Yeah, sure.
Seconds.
Thank you all for doing the polls, by the way.
Yes,
Appreciate
it makes
it.
me happy. I'm so excited.
Yeah. And great questions, y'all. Thank you so much.
Oh, yes. Thank you.
Okay, I think that's kind of at a standstill. I'll go ahead. Oh, wait, 67. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and the poll. And let me share the results with you all.
All right. So, oh yeah. So it looks like 38% the technical computer kind of skills, and then 14% human resources. Or I'm sorry, my apologies, 33% business related. Okay, that's great to know. Thank you all for that.
Awesome.
And I'm so sorry, we had one more question come through that Sarah just caught. And so
Yes.
will you be sending out specific tech requirements necessary to participate in this program? We absolutely can. We have those, happy to share those out. So along with this recording, we'll send a link, our frequently asked questions document, and then I can send out the tech requirements. If VR will need to purchase hardware software, the sooner the better that we could hear. We have like such a lovely team supporting us and walking alongside us as well with DSB. And so right there with you, and they're helping us with that. So thank you for thinking of that. But yes, we can definitely send out those tech requirements. My only caveat is we really do encourage anyone who has interest or wants to apply. We would love to encourage them to, even if they're not quite there at those tech requirements. But yes, we can send those out.
Okay.
All right.
Awesome.
We'll just kind of wrapping things up. Sorry, Sarah, I'll pass it back to you. I didn't mean to.
No worries at all. So here's contact and resource information. We got Morgan Cates and Christine Harrington. Here are their emails below. So please feel free to reach out to the Ablr team. We'd be more than happy to answer any other questions, anything at all, or help out in any way we can. And here, thank you again. Here's a lovely picture of Tracker. He's one of the guide dogs for somebody on the Ablr team. So yeah, any other closing thoughts, Morgan, John?
No, just really appreciate y'all. Thanks for asking the questions and engaging with us. We found this very helpful as well, and hope it is, for y'all. And we really do hope you reach out, and we'll be sending out that information. And just a big shout out to the whole DSB team that's been helping us. Really appreciate y'all.
Yeah, again, just echo that. It's just, again, we're just so thankful for everyone on the DSB team to helping, with this, helping, seeing our vision and mission and what we're trying to do. And this is something very close to our team's heart. And we really, our goal is to really remove those barriers and to really make a dent into that unemployment rate. And we're just so thankful to have partners like y'all. So thank you.
Thank y'all.
Thank you, everybody. And just look out for an email from the Ablr team early next week. We'll send out recording, any additional resources or information. Well, thank you all so much for attending today's webinar. I hope you have a great rest of your day and a great weekend.